Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. Today is April 17th. William Cullen Bryant wrote, "There is no glory in star or blossom till looked upon by a loving eye. There's no fragrance in April breezes till breathed with joy as they wander by." That pretty much sums up what happens with the plants I've dubbed double takes. A double take plant is the one you first ignore or blow off, but then something about them causes you to take another look, to appreciate what you didn't see the first time around. Until the first spring I saw lungwort in bloom, I never looked at it with a loving eye. But then, that very first time I saw it in bloom, it about knocked me over. That bloom, bluey, purpley, pinky, sassy, little delicate thing, it took my breath away. Pulmonaria making me need a pulmonologist. I suddenly didn't mind the speckled foliage. And now I love it. It's a classic double take plant kind of story. Here's today's brevities. Buried on this day 381 years ago in the churchyard of St. Mary at Lambeth, alongside his son, the gardener John Tradescant the Elder. Today, the churchyard is the Garden Museum. On this day in 2003, horticulturist Graham Stuart Thomas died. He was 94. Thomas was fundamentally a nurseryman, and he lived a life fully immersed in the garden. His passion was sparked at a young age by a special birthday present he was given when he turned 6, a beautiful potted fuchsia. In 2003, his gardening outfit, including his pants, vest, and shoes, as well as a variety of his tools, including plant markers and a watering can, were donated to the Garden Museum. Thomas was best known for his work with garden roses and his leadership of over 100 National Trust gardens. He wrote 19 books on gardening. Ever the purposeful perfectionist, he never wasted a minute. And to this day, people are still commenting about Graham Stuart Thomas on social media. Here's a sampling. Pachysandra ground cover, a Graham Stuart Thomas classic. Here's one from a nursery. Our best-selling plant of 2015, Eryngium Graham Stuart Thomas. And another, flower spike on yucca in a border. Graham Stuart Thomas used them as punctuation marks in design. And finally, my favorite, love being married to someone who knows what I mean when I say, bring me Graham Stuart Thomas. On this day, physician and botanist James McBride was born in Williamsburg County, South Carolina in 1784. As a baby, he was left an orphan. With nothing to his name, he managed to get an education through what his Yale biography called indefatigable industry and perseverance. Trained as a doctor, he spent his free time pursuing his passion, botany. McBride wrote letters to the Linnean Society and other scientific journals. His personal friend, Dr. Stephen Elliott, named the Macbridia pulcra for McBride. He also dedicated the second volume of his Sketch of the Botany of South Carolina and Georgia to McBride's memory. Here's what he wrote. James was a gentleman who, uniting great sagacity to extensive and accurate botanical knowledge, has made the medicinal properties of our plants a subject of careful investigation. Profoundly skilled in his profession, he fell victim to the fatigues and exposure of an extensive medical practice. What he was referencing there is the fact that James McBride died at the age of 33, trying to help stop an epidemic of yellow fever in Charleston, South Carolina, on September 21st, 1817. On this day, American botanist and plant collector Adolph Daniel Edward Elmer died. He collected plants in the Philippines for over 2 decades. Kew Gardens shared that in 1919, Elmer's diary notes stated, I collected plant specimens on the Bah-loo-sahn volcano, which has recently become active and may cause the total destruction of its vegetation. Elmer was the editor of Leaflets of Philippine Botany. In that publication, he documented more than 1,500 new species. After the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, Adolph Elmer and his wife Emma ignored the pleas from their extended family to leave American-controlled Manila. Elmer was killed on April 17, 1942, after being captured by Japanese forces in the Battle of Bataan. His wife Emma survived both the battle and the death march. She returned to the United States after the war. For today's Unearthed Words, we take a look at Gilbert White's journal from April 17, 1789. Cucumbers show fruit in bloom. Cuculus cucullat, the voice of the cuckoo, is heard in Blackmore Woods. Sowed hollyhocks, columbines, snapdragons, stocks, mignonette. Also, sweet williams and Canterbury bells. For today's book recommendation, I selected a book by Graham Stuart Thomas. It's called 3 Gardens. In this book, Thomas recounts his journey, charmingly describing the 3 gardens he owned and the plants he tended in each. Today's garden chore is to try growing mignonette. Mentioned in Gilbert White's journal, mignonette means little darling in French. In The Favorites of the Flower Garden, Linnean Society fellow George William Francis and first director of the Adelaide Botanic Garden wrote, "This simple, unattractive weed, which is the envy of the glittering throng that surrounds it in a garden, and which has no rivalry except the rose and the violet, is one of the first flowers that we learn to gather, and the very last we cease to value." Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. On this day in 2018, Sam Postlethwaite, a retired Purdue University botany professor, turned 100 years old. His apartment overlooks the Celery Bog Nature Area, and every morning, Sam wakes up and looks out his window at the 3 different ecosystems before him: the prairie, the woods, and the celery bog. On his walks, he documents what he sees with a Nikon camera, creating booklets filled with photos collected through the years. He says, "It's incredible that we have this right here in our city, and the only way you can understand this treasure is by a routine walk. And then you see life. You see life starting, and you see life continuing, and you see life ending, and you begin to understand living things interacting in nature." Sam taught freshman botany for 35 years at Purdue. He was married to his wife, Sarah, for 69 years. When she died in 2010, they had lived by the celery bog for almost a decade. Sam reflected, "To have had 8 years here with my Sarah has been just wonderful. A spider's life is not much different than ours. If I live, something has to die. We cannot live without things dying." Well, that's it for our show today. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.